In a related development, African Democratic Congress, ADC, its candidate Najeem Salaam has congratulated Governor Ademola Adeleke on his re-election in the Osun State governorship election, saying the outcome reflected the people's choice. Salaam urged Adeleke to use his second term to address shortcomings, build on existing achievements, and govern for all residents, regardless of political affiliation. He also called for political differences to be handled peacefully, stressing the importance of unity and stability in the state after the election. Adeleke won with 511,067 votes, defeating APC candidate Bola Oyebamiji, who secured 444,815 votes. Salaam placed third with 17,180 votes in the polls. Joining us now for in-depth analysis on the results and all of yesterday's events, we're joined by political analyst Jide Ojo. Also joining us is CEO, Nigerian Women Trust Fund, Brenda Anugwom, to just examine the election and its outcome. Gentleman and lady, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you for coming on the news this evening. Let me start with ladies first. Apologies, forgive me. There we go. Jeez. Well, it's a live TV, so bear with me. Let's start with you, Brenda. I mean, INEC has declared Governor Ademola Adeleke the winner. What are the fundamental factors that, sort of explain his victory? And what does the result tell us about voter sentiment in Osun State?
Thank you very much for having me. So this is exactly what we see when voters take the power through the ballot. We always emphasize on electorates coming out en masse to vote their candidates. And you can see that given the number of people that came out yesterday, we were, of course, going from one polling unit to the other, observing what is going on. One of the things we observed was that every polling unit here in Osogbo had a lot of people. So you could say that participation was optimal. So when people come up, when electorates come out and vote their choice, they come out en masse and they don't stay back at home. When we discourage voter apathy, this is the sort of thing that you get. The will of the people happens. And this morning, up until right now that I'm talking to you, there is jubilation in different parts for Osogbo. We went out a couple of times to observe. So people are on the streets and, they're jubilating, they're screaming. So we are happy for the people of Osun State. They made their choice, and we hope that this is what will be replicated in 2027 across other states during the general elections. It's always important for electorates to come out and cast their votes. Staying back and avoiding to exercise your franchise can never give you the leader you deserve. So what just happened has shown that if they come out en masse, whether there's vote trading or not, the will of the people is likely to happen.
Jide, I have to ask you about, Adeleke's victory. How much of it can you say was attributed to his incumbency or his record in office compared with the strength of the Accord's political structure in Osun State?
Well, Judith, a number of things worked in Adeleke's favor. Incumbency is just one of them, but majorly sentiments worked in his favor. Sentiments of persecution, federal might being used against a state like Osun that is not known to be one of the richest states in Nigeria. Osun is purely an agrarian society. It's my home state. And people are wondering, what is in Osun that you have to kill over 30 people in the pre-election period? So apart from being an incumbent performance, he has some infrastructural development to show. The workers are happy with him, paying their salaries as and when due, and also taking care of retirees. People felt it was the David in a game of, in a fight with a Goliath of the federal government. And this rankles because for the past 16 to 18 months, local governance system in Osun has been paralyzed over crisis on who actually is the authentic chairman and councillors of that. Is it the APC people or is it the PDP? That crisis has not been resolved. So local governance system is comatose. Then you have the EFCC, freezing the account of the state government, the arrest of chieftains of Accord, 62 of them, some of them brought to Abuja and Nasarawa State from Osun. Then you saw the unguarded statement by the Senator, Francis, asking that people should be murdered because of their political choice. And these are the sentiments that actually now worked in favor of the incumbent, that, oh, this man is being cheated. We need to rescue him. And that's why people resisted, because Osun people actually have an history of resistance to godfatherism.
All right. We're going to come back. Let's quickly go on a short break. When we return, I'm going to turn to you, Brenda, and ask you about, just beyond voter turnout and, women representation, whether at the candidate level, party officials, and even the polling unit, down to even voter turnout. How do you see women fully represented? But let's take that short break. We'll come back after the break. Stay with us. Hey, welcome back. If you're just joining us, you're watching News Now on News Central Television. We're looking at the outcome of the gubernatorial elections that happened yesterday, and just following the announcement of the incumbent being the victor of the elections. Our guest today is political analyst Jide Ojo, who joins us virtually. Also joining us is CEO, Nigerian Women Trust Fund, Brenda Anugwom, who joins us virtually as well. Brenda, now before the break, I was asking you about, voter turnout, but most importantly, women and how well they were represented, whether as candidates in the elections, the just concluded elections, or as party officials or polling agents or even election administrators, not to even talk about, voters themselves. Let's look at the numbers. From your observation, were we effectively represented?
Thank you so much. Oh, absolutely. We were effectively represented in terms of the number of voters that came out to vote. As we observed yesterday, we had gone to 4 different polling units in Ward 4. Before 11 a.m., we had done that. We had also gone to Ward 5. We'd gone to the Salvation Army school as well, where there are 2 polling units, in one location. And in all these places, you will see women on the queue surpassing men in terms of numbers. And of course, the most touching is when you see moms with their infants, strapped at their backs, standing on the queue and waiting to cast their votes. So what we did was try to ask the officials to find them and ensure that they are also treated as, priority voters. So having a lot of women come out to vote all the time, as we also observed that in other states that we had been observing over the years, and the same thing, the same trend happened here in Osun State. It's so encouraging. It shows that women, as electorates, we know our rights, and we want to elect, good leaders. We even had to talk to a few of them to ask whether they were afraid or why they even came out after hearing all the news about maybe things that could happen. And they said they were not scared of whatever will happen. And they were really happy to come out and cast their votes and vote in the person they want to lead them for the next 4 years. So again, in terms of voter having knowledge of what is required as voters, women have that. So CVE is working, continuous voter education. There is room for improvement in terms of the officials identifying the persons who should be on priority list and giving them that that assistance early enough. But in terms of turnout, women turned out en masse, especially women with children, and they were not in any way deterred. They wanted to vote. They wanted to elect their leader. But then the downside of it is that they are always voting for the men, which is what there's a lot of concern about. But we hope that as time goes by, women will finally realize that they can not only be voters, they can be voted for. So we're hoping that as we continue with continuous voter education, as we continue engaging with the people, we will get to a stage where these women who line up all the time to vote for male leaders will one day vote for themselves, the women.
Mr. Ojo, I want to ask you about, all the events that led to the polls and also all the events that are happening or just the turn of events after the polls. One of them is the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, describing the outcome of the elections as the people's will. Very significant phrase there, but also we did see the victor of the election, and that's Ademola Adeleke, accept the congratulations, but also thanked Mr. President and endorsed him. And right after, we saw a chieftain of the APC, a current minister, who stated, and I quote, "Agreement is agreement." What does all of this say about, politically, the significance of the entire events politically for the APC and, politically for Osun State?
You need to understand the fact that politics is a game of interest and it's a game of numbers. Ademola in 2025 had wanted to join APC, but there was pushback majorly by the former immediate past governor of Osun State, Isiaka Oyetola, who is now the Minister of Marine and Blue Economy. He actually was the one that spearheaded the backlash against Ademola Adeleke coming to APC. And I did say on a media interview earlier today, I won't be surprised if Adeleke eventually defects to APC now that he has won his victory under Accord. But suffice to say that even before yesterday's election, he had openly endorsed on several media interviews that he will work for President Bola Tinubu. He has been saying that since June last year, that he will work for President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And our Accord Party has also not fielded presidential candidates. So I think it bears respect. And don't forget, President Bola Tinubu has an ancestry in Osun State. Iragbi did precisely. That's why himself and the immediate past governor, who is now the Minister of Marine and Blue Economy, are cousins. So if they are cousins, it then means that they share the same ancestry from Osun State. So in 2023, he didn't win Osun State outrightly, President Bola Tinubu, but he did get his 25%. But this time around, if we ended up having an Hausa, Igbo, and Yoruba on the ballot, I'm sure Osun people will vote overwhelmingly for President Bola Tinubu in 2027. But that is still left to speculation. But the most important thing is that I think the president was very mindful of the backlash of his statement that all is fair in politics, which people interpreted that he actually was going to be using underhand tactics or Machiavellian principle to win Osun at all costs for his party, APC. But now that it's been very clear that the people of Osun State have pushed back and have resisted that attempt to win at all costs for APC, I think there will be fresh negotiation as to, okay, now that you have won on Accord Party, Accord cannot carry you far. And that reminds me of what happened under Mimiko in Ondo State. Mimiko went to Ondo, contested under Labour Party in 2007, was rigged out of that election, spent about 3 years at the tribunal. But by the time he was having his second tenure, he did leave Labour Party back to PDP, where he was serving as Minister of Urban and Housing and Urban Development under Obasanjo then. Mimiko went back to PDP from Labour Party. So I foresee a situation where in the nearest future, maybe not immediately, maybe after 2027 election, Ademola Adeleke may actually go to APC, which he had wanted to do since June 2025.
Lastly, I'm going to come to you last for my final question. I don't know if you have enough time. Brenda, you talked about women, stepping up the playing field and stepping up to the plate when it comes to elective offices or taking up, part of, for elective office. It still remains low when it comes to female representation. What then will change? How can we close that gap? Is it a case of money in terms of entry? Do we need concerted efforts from political parties, or do we need women to just, have the courage to step up to the plate? What is wrong, and how can we close that gap?
Thank you so much. So definitely, we do know we run money politics in this country. And if you look at the amount you have to pay to buy a form, it's way over what a lot of women can afford. We still need a lot of CVE. We still need a lot of voter education in that regard. And we then need the legislation, which is why we stand with this bill to increase the number of seats for women. Some people call it special seats bill. We need that. That is one way and the fastest way to start trying to close the gap. Because if we use the bill, which, of course, if it is passed into law by the president when he assents to it, if we get more women into the political offices, then we'll start to build capacity. Then we will start having a lot of women who have experience, and then it will start to trickle down. Because if you look historically, we've always had men in leadership positions, and they have built that structure. So we need that structure for the women. And then, of course, something has to be done about the amount people pay just to get a form, to get into office. So money is part of it, but that legislation is key. It will be fast, and it will take in a lot of women at the same time, and it will start helping women build that structure. And on the other side, we will still continue with CVE, because if there are more women who are voting, then there is no reason why women cannot be voted in. We need to start voting for our kind, not to sound trying to be pushy there, but these are the only ways that we can start working towards closing that gap.
Working towards closing that gap, indeed. Lastly, Mr. Ojo, before I let you go, he's now in office another 4 years for Ademola Adeleke. The dancing governor, I like the dance moves, I will say. But do you think that this is smooth sailing, hands-on health? Is there going to be any glitches, so to speak, whether from the opposition camp or even governing and consolidating on the last 4 years for his last ride around governor of Osun State?
For me, unless the opposition exercise their rights to election dispute resolution, if they are able to amass that they were cheated out of this election, they may go to the Election Petition Tribunal, which will take a total of 240 days to eventually result from tribunal down to Court of Appeal to Supreme Court. But if they decide not to petition or not to appeal the outcome of this election, it then means that Governor Adeleke needs to swing into action on his 5-point agenda, which he has promised in his acceptance speech, that he will actually expand the implementation of his 5-point agenda around governance issues. And Osunlight needs to actually track him. Yes, we all move, we talk about voter education, voter participation, but I think we should move the advocacy beyond voter education and participation to monitoring performance in government, governance monitoring, because that's where the cocoa of the matter, that's the gist. That's why people don't usually come out to vote, because they can't see how their votes have translated to good governance. But if Governor Adeleke can connect the dots and make the over 1 million people who troop out to vote, either for him or for his opponents, if he can make it justifiable for them and for the lost souls not to have died in vain, and is able to deliver on his 5-point agenda around infrastructural development, a Greek revolution, advancement of women, youth, and persons with disabilities, rights and privileges, and also improving the welfare of workers. If you can deliver on this effectively, I think the outcome, the 2030 election, will even witness greater mass turnout than we had yesterday. Incidentally, Osun provides more than above national average when it comes to voter turnout. If you look at the last 4 electoral cycles, it has never been below 40%. And yesterday's turnout is around 50%. Out of 1.9 million, we have about 1 million and few people coming out to vote. So if you discount the 22,000 or thereabouts rejected votes, that's when it comes down to now around something thousand. But that is still well above the national average, which is usually between 20 and 30%. So kudos to Osun people, but let Governor Ademola Adeleke actually connect the dots between votes and governance, so that people will find justification and that they will be happy that they actually committed themselves to the social contract of voting for him in hope of receiving good governance.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I want to say thank you so much for taking out the time to join us on the news and just give your analysis. Political analyst Jide Ojo, and also the CEO of Nigerian Women Trust Fund, Brenda Anugwom. Once again, many thanks.